only use Sitecore connector and a bit of web crawling as well. Web crawling a bit like what you will get with GSA, so mostly just HTML parsing and then on a schedule. So we thought, why not do something a bit more special for Sitecore, and especially with the release of Sitecore 7, with the creation of the Sitecore Search Provider. It allows us to move our integration around instead of being just a connector, being a registered index in the Sitecore Search Provider, and then just respond to Sitecore command and send them to our index. And at the same time, we develop what we call the JavaScript Search Ui, which allows us to do to kind of create really flexible components. For search, mostly search box, and search-driven components. So a few things. Usually, we present a few slides. I want to go around in the SUGs now. Since I said I only have 30 minutes, I will focus on 3 things. First of all, what's the cloud? What's the difference with what we had on premise? Then a quick overview of what we do in Sitecore, how we integrate, and what you can do with the product. And then going back on Reveal machine learning. So I don't know, any of you use Reveal so far? Coveo Reveal? Okay, awesome. So I'll give Reveal is machine learning. Of course, you cannot simulate human data. You can simulate data with bots. That's easy to do. But simulate real user behavior is extremely hard to do. So that's why I will use a live client to actually do my demo. It will be Logitech, which is one of our clients. So first of all, the cloud platform, well, here it is. You see it on the screen at the moment. So mostly, this is a trial organization. If you go on coveo.com/Sitecore, you can actually download this trial and add the exact same thing that I have right now. So mostly, it gives you Sitecore and the web connector right here. So I've created both. The web I've created from here, and I'm actually indexing Sitecore.net. So this is really, really simple web parsing, but can allow you, especially as a Sitecore developer, if you have a client who has Sitecore instances, but something outside of Sitecore, a competitor of Sitecore, simply a website they build themselves, they can actually index it and then return that content in Sitecore. So if you have a client who says, Sitecore is my main investment, but I still have these legacy sites here and there, and I still want that information to be searchable, we could do it. That's what I did here with the web connector. And the Sitecore sources, I didn't create them myself. We create them for you when you install in Sitecore. So if I look here at my Sitecore instance, we'll probably, there you go. I knew I would get kicked out. So if I look at my control panel here in Sitecore, what I did is simply using the installation, so the install a package wizard. And by installing the package, it takes about 5 to 10 minutes in order to create the organization. It added this kind of Coveo search on the side. So here on the screen, yeah, we see it, but it's a little bit hidden. So on the side, it created that kind of Coveo search panel there. And in the indexing manager, where you control the indexing of all your Sitecore indexes, we added two new indexes at the top, the Coveo Master and Coveo Web Index. So mostly you still have all of your Lucene indexes, but we create a Coveo Web and Coveo Master on top of it, mostly for end user search and also for content author when they're looking at their pages on preview search. When I create this and I rebuild directly from here, from Sitecore, like I would do with any other kind of indexes, it created for me my Sitecore sources. And not only it created them, it parsed all the different fields that you have on your template and also parsed the HTML of the item and returned the entire thing, including a quick view. So if I look at, for example, my, let's look at my web. So if I look at my web index, I have, for example, Chris Castle, who was actually doing the Coveo training not a long time ago. And I have all the different fields from Sitecore are already there. So anything that was created is there, including, for example, the title and all the different metadata. So you don't have to map anything. And also, I have the permissions. So in my case, on launch Sitecore, everything is anonymous. But if I have a secured Sitecore, if I have a login page, if I have anything that is not publicly accessible, Coveo will support the permission natively. So at the indexing level, that's pretty much it. And we can see a quick view. It's really, here in the cloud, it's not rendering well. I will show it on the search interface, it's better. But this is the HTML parsing. So everything that is actually presented on your page can be searched. And this is something that will really make your life easier, especially as a Sitecore developer in terms of search. If you use Lucene or Solr, you mostly have to select which field can be searched. And if you have multiple components on one page, you don't necessarily, you need to have not only the field of the item, but the field of the related item as well to be searchable in order for that item to return. So mostly by default, people will search against the title and some selected metadata. But if I have something really specific in the body of my item that I'm looking for, it might be harder to search. So in our case here, the rendered page is what you can search against. So that's the first thing. At the indexing level, that's pretty much it. And of course, since we are an official index in Sitecore, we register ourselves as an index. Everything that you will use with Solr or Lucene, such as inbound filtering, any kind of processing on the indexing pipeline, or any kind of computed field, any kind of management on the field, exclude template, include template, can be used. So at the indexing level is pretty much still in the same territory than what you're used to. Where we bring value, not only by making it searchable, mostly free text searchable, but it's in our UI components. If I look at this one here, if I take a look at the layouts and the templates, whoops, we add a few of our own stuff. So Coveo here, we add a few layouts. So these layouts, well, you have the search, you have the search layout for mobile, the search layout for web crawler, because our components are in JavaScript, if you want to have them searchable for your SEO, to be SEO friendly. We have the layouts there, but mostly we have our sub layouts and our rendering, because you will most likely add your own layouts. So what you will want to do is use your own layout and then integrate Coveo renderings and sub layouts in them in order to respect, that placeholder logic and that component logic of Sitecore. So we have all of them here. I will show you how they actually work on our search page in just a few seconds. And we also add a few templates, mostly under Coveo module here under search. You have all of these, which are parameters. So all of the options that we have on our module out of the box will be here, and you can actually create your own parameters to allow your authors and anyone managing your site to actually integrate not only components and sub layouts, but also bind this to data source, so they are already configured the way you want. So really making Sitecore is all about making site building easy for authors once the developer has done this job. While Coveo, we follow the same logic because at the moment with Lucene and Sitecore, it might get better with SXA, but right now when you have a search, it's mostly static, and it's the part of the site that's currently static. And since search is getting more and more and more important on site, not only in Sitecore but in the web in general, it is important to give that power also at the search level. So what it looks like, I will do first just an insert of our Coveo layout. So this one here includes our Coveo layout and also some of our sub layouts, including the Coveo search sub layouts and the search resources, which are mostly the JavaScript. So if I look at it, so I've just inserted that item, and I have already a kind of a functional search mostly, not pretty, but functional. So as I said, we should have full indexing of the body of the HTML of the document. So if I look at Patrick Wallace here, for example, and I search for including level 3 communication something, so anything in the body here, and I search for it, there we go. So I have, of course, the results are being returned, and also I have full transparency with highlighting here where I know exactly as a user why this was returned. So this is something, day one, second one, minute one, this is something that you have at the beginning. Then if I highlight the components here on this page, it must be an edit. So if I put myself as an editor and I highlight my components, you can see my placeholders that comes by default with our component. So one of them here would be the facet component. So for example, place a Coveo facet. I can use any fields that are declared facet under the system bucket facet folder. Same thing that you will do with any other. So I will call this one type, for example, and then use template. And there we go. So I have a facet here. I could add, for example, here, relevancy sort. And since relevancy is the sort by default, I'll add another sort, for example, date. So I'll just change the sort direction. And I will, I could also insert a tab. I don't have any, oh, I could. No, I don't have any good ideas of tabs, but you could have tabs at the top of your page also to really separate your different interfaces. Well, I could have one by default, for example, all content. Just so you know, but I could add some more later. So I'll just save this. It took me about 35 seconds. And now if I go, I'll just go back into preview. And now I have, first of all, a functional sort, where the date here, you can see the date changing here, and I could go back to my relevance. I have fully functional facets, facets that will adapt to what is being typed. So if I type for Sitecore here, so now I have 60 results, and the facet count has been adapted to that. I can also search within my different facets. So all of this is there out of the box, and if I'm an author, I can come back here and then, for example, change the behavior of my facet. So I can change all of these options here. For example, change the or for an and behavior. I could say show more results by default and et cetera, et cetera. But also when I create that facet, I can bind it to a data source, and I've already kind of pre-configured facets. So giving a lot of power to marketer and authors. Same thing, I could do that with all my components, including my main search component here, where I could change pretty much everything that I have on this page, such as changing the pager, adding it at the top, at the bottom, or even removing the facets, removing all the placeholders, removing the search box, removing the result count, and then have a listing page straight away without even needing a search box or anything. And how do I control that listing page? Then that's these two boxes here where I can add filtering and boost expression rules. So filtering rules will decide of the scope of my query. So I could say, so in this case here, where the item is in the content item of one of the sub-items, so I could change this, change that basic rule and say, hey, instead of adding the content item, why I could just decide this to be a listing page for my team member actually. And now we'll just click on OK. OK, and then did I say, oh, sorry, I just need to unselect my facets. 1 second. Yeah, drawback of doing something stupid. There we go. So now that I put myself back into the main state, so you can see now I have only 10 results on my search interface. So I changed the entire scope of my search from content to team member. I've done it through the path, but I have a lot of the different rules that I can use. If I go back into my edit rule here, I can base on templates, I can base on field, I can base on specific item. And if I go in the code of my page, just using the JavaScript code, I could base on any logic that I want, any code logic. So instead of having to, if you use a content search API, for example, with Solr, or even actually to link your query with Coveo, you can build that same logic. So select your queryable where the field equals this thing, or the template equal these things. But when you want to change that logic, when an author said, hey, I have a new type of product, but they are in another part of the content tree, or they use a different template, what they need to do, submit a change order, recompile the code, test the solution, go into for environment, and then finally change it. In this case here, an author could actually change the scope themselves. So giving them a lot of flexibility. And the second set of rules, if I cancel this, second set of rule will be a boost expression rule. So this one I won't get too much into it, but mostly basic relevance that you're seeing at the moment is if I type Sitecore, something with Sitecore in the title or in the body will be returned. But what if I have, in this case, I have team members and article, but what if I have product and support document, and I always want my product to be featured first? Well, I could say if the template equal product, make it a higher score by default. So two documents that have the same lexical match with the query will have different weighting in the search result. So giving, again, a lot of power and relevancy instead of trying to, okay, let's curate our content, because I hear a lot of clients saying, oh, I need to curate my content and make more tags on this content so that it returns first with my relevance. Stop trying to modify your content, just modify your search relevance. So these are some of the tools. If I want, in this case here, I use the Coveo layout, but you could, of course, integrate. In this case here, I have an existing layout. Hi, everyone. So in this case, I had a search page with an existing layout, and what I did is I integrate only some of the Coveo layouts in it, but they're under the Launch Sitecore main layout. So if I do a publish on this page, actually a preview on this page, right? So here I have again the same thing with different tabs at the top, 2 different facets, different relevance and date sort, and but I have a totally different layout in this case. So I'm using existing layout and I'm just inserting search component. And this could be, you could have a layout again for example, product listing page, and just insert a Coveo component in there and maybe insert 1 facet to make it easier. I created the different tabs here, and all of these tabs are different behavior for facets, different behavior for sort, and just with a little bit of CSS, I modified it. I modified the results template and all these kind of things. And actually, the templates underneath the cover are based on _JS template. So if you're familiar with _JS, you can actually render content dynamically. So just if I want to have a different template, for example, my team member, they have that little photo. Instead of having an excerpt, they have their actual abstract and their title here, while the rest of my content is simply a quick view and then the excerpt. All I did was creating a new result template and then changing the different variables that are being returned by the chasins of my index. So if I put that to the maximum, because some people ask me how flexible it is, and I would prefer to build my own search interface because it's so much more flexible if I build my own components and everything. This is one of our clients actually from Calgary called Enbridge, oil and gas company, built by our partner called Fish Tank. So what they have here is when you go to their main site, they have this kind of tile. So when you go around, like this video will start, if you go here, it will slide in. So with this kind of animation, making it really nice. So if I go on the search is exactly the same thing. So they use the same CSS, they use the same templating for their result set, and this is all driven by Coveo underneath the cover. So extremely flexible, you can do pretty much anything you want with it. And also using, when I said just using the idea of components and inserting search everywhere you want across your site, all of these here on the right side, they're all components in Sitecore, so they're all renderings that you can insert. So an author can come over here and say, the map's not that popular, let's get rid of it, and instead add a Coveo component here. And they build this little Coveo component with which return only 1 result, where it has a filtering rule based on the context of the page, and then it returns a related result. So you have a kind of related content list powered by Coveo that you don't need to hard code or anything. It's all search driven based on the context. So this is it mostly for, and of course we support, I forgot one thing, we support natively Sitecore XDB. So in the case of Launch Sitecore, I will have to go on the publish site. So let me just grab this. Actually, maybe easier this one. So Launch Sitecore is nice enough to provide me information on who I am using Sitecore XDB. So anyone here has used profile and patterns? Yeah, well, Amanda, you did a speech on this at the symposium, right? Yeah. So we have an expert at the back, so I'll be careful what I say. Anyway, Launch Sitecore gives you information on who you are using profiles and patterns. It's something really nice for us because it allows us to know who we are. So right now I'm nobody. So what I have is just basic relevance here being returned for the articles. If I start going around, so let's go for example, marketing information, so creating a personalized experience, tag content, multivariate testing, creating a goal. So now I'm a digital marketer. If I go back to my search page, create a goal, multivariate testing, creating personalized digital marketer. So now it's content that is relevant to me. And all we did for that, if I go back under the cover, under the hood, I will put myself back in edit. And all I did is, when I look at my search component, I added this little component here called Enable Automatic Boosting. And I based my automatic boosting on audience segments, which is digital marketer and all these kind of things. So if you build your new segment here, if you build this new category actually of profiles and patterns, you can base your logic on it. So you simply need to map your content with profile cards, and then as we detect patterns around with the current user, we will return the right content for them. So these are all things that we do natively. For this XDB personalization is the enterprise version, but everything else that I've shown, this and these rules here at the top of the page, these are for the enterprise version. Everything else with components is on the pro version or any version actually, even the free. So I will move to reveal. Any question on the cloud or Sitecore? I went pretty fast.
Oh, with the Sitecore, sorry, with the cloud.
Yeah.
When we're pitching to clients or talking to clients, what would in your eyes, the value proposition be for Coveo Cloud versus on-premise? And there's some obvious ones in terms of maintenance, yeah. But what would your case, how would you present it?
Well, two things. You said the first one, and I will present the second one in a second. So the first one will be easy maintenance. They don't have to take care of any server. They don't have to take care of, maintaining Coveo, upgrading it, and, network problem that could come with it, server backups, all these kind of things. We do a backup every 4 hours, so maximum data loss on the cloud of 4 hours. It's not easy to replicate on-premise. We do also scaling and redundancy. So basic pro support plan will have a 99.5% uptime that is guaranteed per year. So about 6 hours lost, and then afterward there's financial responsibility from us. And also a query response time under 1 second anywhere in North America. So something you don't have to manage load balancing, mirroring, everything. And same thing with Solar, you'll have slaves and network load balancing. So it's really just a plug and play approach where you don't have to worry about it anymore. And this is, I think, there's no value to this. And the other thing is reveal. So as you go along, actually on my published search page, I will show a little bit in the browser here. But if I click on, if I click on any of these facets, I have search events that are being tracked. Actually, I have Sitecore search events, but also Coveo search events that are being tracked, which sends tons of metadata to our cloud. And then if I look at my cloud instance here, and I look at my report, I have this nice little dashboard that is given to me out of the box and can be fully customized. You can add any metadata that you want. You can send metadata using our JavaScript framework, and then base these dashboard on any data that you want. But then Coveo will start feeding on this actually the moment since you actually create your search interface and you publish it, on any published search, Coveo search-driven component, we start tracking analytics from day one. And then Reveal machine learning will start feeding on this. So here I have an example of a client called Logitech, where if I search for mouse on their site, this is what's being returned. So you have mouse, flower, football thing. So these are, it's a support page mostly. And when I search for mouse, I have never seen this one, neither this one or this one. Most people, what they will search for is something like this, like a really standard mouse. in order to troubleshoot. So this here, basic relevance, pretty good. Mouse is in the title, probably everywhere in the body of the document. So basic lexical match, basic relevance is pretty good. Marketing could spend some time with all of the Coveo tool with boosting rules in order to return some type of mouse. But what Reveal does mostly is that it learns that people that usually search for mouse, they ended up clicking on something else and then boost the result. So if I enable Reveal on this page, so I have a script actually to enable and disable, but this is usually not there. So if I enable Reveal, you can see I have wireless performance, all these kind of things. So if you go on Logitech website right now, this is what you get when you search for mouse. What I was showing before is when I disable Reveal using script. So this here, all that it did is learning from the user and saying, you know, these are the mice that are popular, and this is what I should have at the top of my page. And if I scroll down, you can see that tiger and flower is still there. So it still respects relevance, basic relevance, but it gives a boost to those that should be at the top of the page. And it can give another really useful output of it is, for example, if I search for this term here is QA59 returns nothing. QA59 was actually a serial number on a USB port for a wireless mouse. So people will lose their mouse and then add just that USB port and say, hey, what's that serial number? I'll try to search with it. And by searching, they will get to nothing because you don't keep, this is like a factory serial number. You know, you don't keep that in your product description. But then as people start searching for this and ended up finding their query and finding their mouse, Reveal learned from it. Now if I enable Reveal, I have a set of mice to show. And this is also what you will get on Logitech, supportlogitech.com right now to this day. And creating Reveal, so you will tell me it's really complicated as a developer. Creating Reveal takes about 3 seconds. I have actually one, I think, already created, but I'll create a new one. So here I'm in what we call the query pipeline, where you can add a lot of different logic. You can see top result, ranking weights, and all these kind of things. And you can create a reveal model. So if I add a model, actually, on the configuration panel, I can create 3 kinds of machine learning panel. The third one is only for enterprise users. The 2 other ones are for any pro cloud or actually any cloud version. I'm using the trial right now. And you can tune relevance, what I've shown you with logic, but you can also offer a query suggestion. An example here. This is our developer documentation. So this here is, we didn't put any field underneath this, or we didn't say, hey, search against a certain field. This is reveal query suggestion being provided. And yeah, so if I want to create a model, I would say tune relevance, train weekly for a data period of about 3 months. So if I want, for example, if I have a lot of velocity and I want Reveal to relearn every day, I can switch to daily. If I'm selling products and I have a lot of sales and I want it to be fast, I could say Reveal relearn daily, but then weekly will be fine. Then the impact on relevancy, mostly how much trust do you put in Reveal, and then I would just click on add. It takes a few minutes, maybe I think up to half an hour to really create the model, and then we'll start learning. On site like Logitech, it took a few days before we actually saw relevancy change. On more standard sites, like for example, you have an insurance company or something that is not that people go to, but it's not highly popular. It can take up to about 3 months in order to have the best out of it. And a way to track it, to know if it actually works without using that script that I've shown. You can see that I created this model in a pipeline, so I can create a pipeline without Reveal and a pipeline with Reveal, and then using what we call A/B testing, well, actually what everyone calls A/B testing, but. And here decide which pipeline to show to my users, what percentage of the time. So I could say 50% of my users will fall on my pipeline without Reveal, and the other 50% on pipeline with Reveal. And then with some dashboard on my analytics, being able to see what's my different click-through, my average click rank, and if actually my results are more relevant than they used to be. So that's it. I've extended my time. I don't know if you have any question on this. I went really fast on a few features. So. Otherwise, thank you. It's kind of normal to start with technology. You're not thinking, we're dealing with
it was really fun. We're very happy with it. Oh, everyone was pretty everyone talked about it. So, very nice. Appreciate that. We have a lot of work to do. Yeah.
Rainy, we should get our little amphitheater set up. Yeah. All right.
Hello. So we're gonna make a little horseshoe around this area, yes? Yeah. So you want to like move the chairs out of the middle and kind of a small horseshoe shape in this area for a discussion. Yeah, probably a couple rows. I don't know, or one row. So good. So moving your chair, Ben. Yeah, I'm going to not Let's do 2 rows, right? Yeah. So if you guys want to, you don't have to go all the way out. Maybe a couple of rows. Okay. Oh, that's good. Yeah, you have to gather around. Have a seat. Or you can stand, I guess, if you want. Yeah, that's okay. And I think let's coordinate. Yeah, guys. So we have a few of you who attended Symposium, the folks who attended Symposium are going to be sharing their experience, right? With us. That's what it is. So what do you want to introduce this segment, or do you want me to just do it?
No, sure. I mean, so I think what we want to do is have a bit more of an interactive vibe for this. Each of us have prepared a few thoughts, but certainly for those who didn't get to go, it's a chance to ask some questions and get a sense of what's coming. But I think it would be helpful if we just kind of went around the room and maybe introduce yourself. Where are you from? Are you new to Sitecore? Are you, old hat? Something like that. Tell us something interesting, and we can get a sense. So sorry to put you on the spot. You want to start?
My name's Ben Switzer. In the Sitecore world for a year and a half. I think did a deep dive with Tech Guilds and got to know the platform well with working with those guys. Interested about machine learning and the framework that Sitecore is talking about. Want to know if either of you have attended that session at Symposium. That's kind of where I'm at.
I'm Martin Haynes. I'm a colleague of Ben's and work with him over at Razorfish. New to Sitecore still, but an old hat .NET developer. This is actually all the way back to the first initial beta days, though more recently with a long tenure with JavaStack and open source. So still sort of reacclimating to all the wonderful things of the .NET universe.
So I'm Jason Matthews, and I'm with the Stu Geniuses here. And I'm on the front-end side of things. So Sitecore is a little bit new to me, but one thing that I'm particularly interested in is how we can streamline having Sitecore guys work with pure UI guys. And right now, one project that we're working on, we're introducing React into Sitecore. So that's pretty interesting.
So my name is Alan. I work at Tech Guild, Sitecore developer. I started about 2 months ago working with Sitecore. So I still have a lot to learn. Yeah.
My name is David. I'm from Brazil, and I work at TechGuild, and I've been working in Sitecore about 6 months.
My name is Alex. I work at Epico, and I'm in Sitecore, I believe, about a year and something.
I'm Brian. I'm with Affinity Systems, and I've been working with Sitecore and the Tech Guild guys for about 4 months now.
My name is Alex. I'm doing business development and sales. I'm growing my knowledge in Sitecore.
You're with what company?
I'm growing my own business.
Okay. Cool.
Right, entrepreneurs in the house.
Thank you.
Name's Ken, with Tech Guilds. I'm the Sitecore DevOps Manager. I've been working with Sitecore since 2011, October 23rd to be exact.
Happy birthday!
I'm hired by this company, and they literally launched their Sitecore website the Friday before I started on the Monday, and I was totally in charge of taking that over. So that was my first experience in Sitecore. I moved back. I've been with Tech Guilds now for the last year. August, somewhere around 25th. Yeah.
Your report, you didn't know that.
I'll be retiring in yeah, so I was at the Symposium as well, and it was a great experience. Ready to begin?
Hello everyone, my name is Mustafa. I work with Tech Guilds now for about 9 months. I do project management, business analysis, and my background is in engineering, business consulting, UX design. So I come from a mix of backgrounds, and I'm very new to Sitecore, and mainly interested in the BA and PM side.
You are certified Scrum Master.
And I am.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My name is Barat. I work for Tech Guild. I'm actually the brain behind Nabil and Dennis.
He's telling us.
I'm the one. Just kidding. I work with Sitecore. Like, it's been around 6 months now, and I'm really enjoying the new office.
My name is Wen from Sunwing. I'm the Sunwing web development team solution architect. I work on Sitecore for almost 3 years. Actually, I like the context intelligence of the Sitecore, and also worked a lot on search Solar. Actually, I'm interested in Coveo. I want to know the structured data index. We have 35 million records right now. Need to index. Wow.
Hi everyone, I'm Blair. I'm a marketing analyst at Nonlinear within the marketing science practice. Just started 6 weeks ago, so I'm very new to Sitecore and here to learn.
My name is Faraz. I'm a potential customer for Pickles, working for PCM, which is Target Direct in the Canadian market. So yeah, I was just exploring the ideas here that we're.
My name is Ammar Hinnawi. I'm not in the IT field at all. I'm a chartered professional accountant and currently sitting my own practice firm. I thought it's a good idea to know more about IT and about Sitecore. And we always chat me and Nabil and try to understand the terminology. Now it's a good idea to know more about it.
Okay. My name is Isabel Tinoco. I'm the Alliance Manager at Coveo, so helping our partners in any way possible. And yeah, I've been in the Sitecore ecosystem for 8 months now. The community is very nice, really enjoying the ride.
Well, my name is Guilherme. I'm a web developer. I worked with .NET since the creation of the framework. I also work with SharePoint since 2007. And more recently, I'm working with mobile development and looking for some knowledge on Sitecore as well.
Okay. I'm Nabil Orfali, co-founder of Tech Guild. I handle delivery and operations of the company. Also certified Sitecore developer and Scrum Master. I've been working with Sitecore since 2008, version 6.1, I believe. So, yeah,
That's Simon. Simon Coveo is awesome. I'm Simon. I'm solution architect at Coveo. I'm certified Sitecore developer 2 years and a half ago, almost 3 years now. And I've been working at the R&D team of Coveo, mostly again, just for product delivery mostly, so for not only the internal team to understand the product, but also for all the partners and make it easier for everyone to work.
Awesome. I'm Dennis Augustine. I'm the pretty face in front of all of this brains at TechGuild. A co-founder as well. We're working with Sitecore for about 10 years, and big fan of everybody in the room.
Amanda Shiga from Nonlinear. I head up our marketing science practice, but really it's a Sitecore practice, and we're focusing especially now on data analytics, optimization, personalization, all that good stuff, and also an MVP. So looking forward to sharing some of the stuff we saw there.
Hi everyone, my name is Pete Kuhtey. I am, what am I? I used to be a developer. I work for Infusion. I am now heading up our CMS practice, focusing on business development and sales. So I might have some perspective for you. I went down to the symposium with that perspective, trying to get some answers from them, and I did. So maybe I'll start.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So my main goal is going down the symposium. Or I guess we got 2 more guys. No. All right. I wanted to get really 5 things out of it. I wanted to get the Azure story, what it was. You know, my company, we've struggled selling Sitecore on Azure Platform as a Service, typically because we run into an unsupported feature. And we've heard rumors that they were going to solve this with Sitecore 8.2, and I wanted proof. So that was one. Training was another big thing. A lot of engagements that we stumbled upon. Our clients are trying to build up their own Sitecore capabilities at the same time, so they want us to go in there and help them out. And not only that, but also train them. And we don't provide that service. We've only been doing Sitecore for about 2.5 years now, so we don't claim to be that much of an expert enough to train. So Sitecore does have some online training, and we want to know what the status was on that. The next thing was licensing. I couldn't get any clarity around this. Like, I'll get to that. And then partnerships. Like, what do we got to do to grow our partnership with Sitecore? So the Azure study is actually quite positive. They claim it's working. I got a personal demo from Mark, who unfortunately is not here today. He works for Sitecore. He sometimes shows up to these, him and Anthony. And not only does it work, but they also have their own ARM template. So what an ARM template is, it's like a list of things you need to build a Sitecore solution, and Microsoft Azure will basically go provision all that stuff, install Sitecore for you, and you're up and running. And so Sitecore is building ARM templates. They've actually just released them. They said November 1st. I haven't seen an official announcement, but they should be ready to test. And these will eventually go into the Azure marketplace. So, and they'll be officially supported by Sitecore. We got our hands on them. They're working. I'm very surprised. I haven't seen I haven't actually seen if all the features are supported yet. For example, web forms for marketers wasn't supported. I think there were some things around XDB that weren't supported. They claim they are now, so which is great. Training. So they have officially launched their online training. $1,500, and you get developer training with that, and you get a certification at the end of it. I just learned that I might be able to get a cheaper deal for my clients, somebody in this room, so that's cool. We'll talk. The partnership, so we got a little clarity around that, what we have to do to move up the ladder. It's basically Sitecore certified developers are important, and MVP helps, but at the end of the day, selling Sitecore is really what's gonna do it for you, right? So I don't know exactly what level we're at. I think Nonlinear, you guys have bronze, is it?
We're
silver, platinum now? Okay, cool. So there's different levels, and basically the more Sitecore you sell, the higher you go. And the benefits of this partnership is typically they'll reciprocate leads coming your way, and the higher you are, the better the leads. So what else did I want to talk about? Licensing. So wanted clarity. I asked for it. I didn't get it. There's who's got it?
No.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
So in the opening keynote, they made a big announcement saying that there's now consumption-based pricing, which is really like exciting for me because it's something that's easy to sell. I asked them about it afterwards. They're like, okay, well, let's set up a whole meeting because this is what it's going to take. So they came to our office, explained it to us, and I still don't get it. So they basically said, nothing's changed. It's like, it's a bring your own license model. So all the licensing stuff is still the same, except you can take this license, put it on the cloud, and now you can scale. And I'm like, how do you know like how many users there are, blah, blah, blah. They're like, no, it's the same license, don't worry about it. It takes a while to figure out. Like, well, that doesn't help me. So we're going to see if there's going to be some real documentation coming out of them, but we'll see. I don't know. Like, if you've got any clarity, I'd love to hear.
Yeah, I got, like, we got some guidelines about experience management versus experience platform, and like some guidelines for like the number of, like, I forget what the actual metric was, visitors or whatever it was, but there was some guidelines with regards to that. But at the end of the day, it was still tell the customer to talk to the rep.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like just fixed, so there's a lot of variability in there nonetheless. So even if there was that like really rough guideline, it wasn't something that you should go to.
So like at the end of the day, Sitecore, like I think I can quote them on this. We'll never lose on price. So
they don't want the deal to walk out the door.
Yeah.
But they're going to start high and then
So those are the things that went down. There were some big surprises for me. X Connect, I thought was I didn't know much about it, and this is huge. Like, I think what this is, it's their play. In my opinion, I think they want to take XDB to a standalone product. I think there's potential for it. It's still really connected to Sitecore, but if they can pull that off, I think it's going to open up a lot of options for them outside the CMS space, specifically around Internet of Things. What else is a surprise? I got some validation on something I'm seeing in the market. The marketing keynote, their mantra was less talk, do more. Sitecore is basically admitting that their clients are buying Sitecore, but they're not using the features that we love to talk about, like personalization and stuff. And to me, it's like these clients love to buy options, and whether they actually use them, like it's a crapshoot. Like, I think I'm noticing that clients are on like marketing automation, like Eloqua, Marketo, things like that, HubSpot. They like the option to be able to consolidate, but they don't do it. And Sitecore wants to help us get them to do it. And yeah, they're going to have a lot more sales enablement material around that. What else is there? Something that was barely mentioned at the symposium, something I noticed, and probably a lot of you noticed, is a performance increase in 8.2. I don't know if anyone noticed this.
I think it's better.
Speed
is lighter.
Yeah. Like, I was blown away about how much faster 8.2 was running on our sales demos. So I was pretty stoked about that because that was a sticking point. It used to hang a lot on us, but not anymore. And that's I think about all I got. Sure, I've got some more.
About commerce, or because you said expedite, but also it also links commerce.
Commerce isn't really in our wheelhouse yet. Like, being only 2.5 years into this game, and we've got like the non-linears, the tech deals, like in our backyard, it's hard for us to win business. They're not going to come to us for commerce. We have to bring Sitecore to our existing clients. So we have yet to do commerce. So it's not on my radar.
About the cloud offering, I mean, when I heard about Azure before, I thought there was, what I had understood that there was that search wasn't working on the Azure.
Yeah, they're using apparently they're using Azure Search.
Yeah, it works.
It works.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's losing in the cloud.
Yeah.
So it's an extra, but it works. And the thing is, out of Azure package is most expensive, but it works.
Sorry, the
Azure Search. Yeah, there's a premium on it.
Okay.
If you want to add on Azure, it's an add-on.
How would Coveo work with the Azure?
With Sitecore Azure, mostly you can upload your package in it. That's not a problem. You can use Coveo Cloud with. Nice. You can use Coveo on premise also with Sitecore. You provide your own server. As anything.
Right, as long as it can connect to your server.
Yeah, as long as you can upload the package and it doesn't change whether you're on Azure or anywhere else.
Right on.
Cool. Any other questions around sales and business development? Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh wait, I'll just push hard.
Oh, there's another USB there.
Oh, I just said that. Oh.
Ooh, that breaks. You know what?
Yep. Where's your?
We have a few more folks who are going to do their dance. So all of the symposium people who were right. So this is the symposium folks who are going to share their experience with us. Don't all at once.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Oh, yeah, she's ready to go.
Yeah, I'm ready to go. I just want to check the people online as well. Are you guys? I see Nick, and who's the other person who's there?
It's Jeff, Nick, and Jeff.
Oh, Nabil, that's you, Nick.
That's me.
And then so is it only Nick?
I think it's just Nick.
Oh, Nick, you there?
Well, it's muted.
Maybe.
Oh, he's muted.
I think you called. Yeah.
Okay.
You want to talk time? Like you want to?
Well, no, he'll speak too. He'll present, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So let me make him presenter then.
Okay, well, after.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm most excited about, so I actually, to Peter's point about X Connect and data, that was the most exciting thing to me. So I'll just share a brief story about that. So certainly this XDB roadmap at X Connect was really, really awesome. So as we all know, the battle for being the one view of the customer or the customer system of record is ongoing, and I think XDB and X Connect tell a really beautiful story. So yes, they want to be that one platform, and that's a bit of a tough sell. But again, the more customer data you can pull into this, and the more behavioral data you can pull in, you have this incredible power to predict, segment, analyze, machine learning, etc. And yes, it may evolve to be a standalone product that facilitates basically being a data warehouse for this kind of stuff, for web data, for customer data. So this is, what's his name? Todd Mitchell is the product manager for X Connect. So this was his IoT visual. But basically the vision is that it's evolving to be able to pull any event in the universe into the XDB and not just web events. So anything you can imagine, it's going to facilitate you building a solution that can pull that stuff in. Point of sale, I walked down the street, I don't know what it will be, but really that's what they're trying to facilitate. So the vision of that includes, any information about any individual. We're moving from things like page views, which are really web specific, to just events, again, in the universe. We're going to move into entities like activity, contact, journey. That really resonates. I don't know who uses journey maps as a tool for strategy work. We love them too. So having that concept baked in, I think, is going to be really, really great. You can inherit from the event, you can extend it, so really developer friendly. I know Todd showed some early code samples of what that's going to look like. And then of course, ability to extract in OData format, which was really interesting to me. Because I did a little machine learning pilot and I had to wrestle with Mongo, which took the bulk of the time. So having the ability to pull that stuff out in a way that's very manipulative, I don't know, able to manipulate it is a really, really exciting thing. So we already have cool stuff. This is a snapshot of Sitecore Analytics with a bit of tagging applied. So we've got some patterns, profiles, engagement value. So we've already got this out of the box in 8.1, 8.2. But again, I think what's promising about having the XDB as a thing that you can export and play with, is you start to be able to do things like this. So lead scoring, a predictive model, or even segmentation. So again, you're collecting this enormous granular database of what everyone's doing, not just on the web, but everywhere else. And then that's just a huge warehouse of behavioral information, and we can start to do some really interesting data mining stuff. So that's the sort of things we're starting to look at in the practice. So just to give you a quick sense of our pilot and why I'm excited. So we did a pilot with Rotman, and we spent 2 months collecting over the summer, and then August and September, the vast majority of the time was spent ETL just on the Mongo. That was painful. It collects, it's irregularly shaped. We need it to be a rectangle, etc. So that was weeks and weeks and weeks. So again, the OData thing is a great evolution. Here's my pipeline for processing the Mongo. It was painful. And then here's a quick snapshot of our predictive model. So this is some normalized data that the XDB collects. And you can see over there, I've got a prediction column. And so we've got some of them right and some of them wrong. So that's really exciting stuff to us. And then a couple of other quick notes. So I did confirm, everyone had the question, well, with XDB, you know, we're going to have custom events, we're going to have custom contact data if you want to connect with your CRM and pull stuff in and build out the experience profile. You know, is that possible in the XDB Cloud Edition? Well, it's coming. So the next release, and I don't know when that is, they're moving the architecture to Azure Web Apps, which will facilitate pushing up a custom solution. So thumbs up on that, big time. And then, of course, that's only going to grow the ecosystem of Dynamics connectors, Salesforce, all those common platforms that we all have to work with. So that's what I found most exciting. Any questions?
So that's in bringing the actual, so you're bringing like the second, using XConnect to bring the CRM data, the Dynamics data into the profile, you're saying?
Yes. So Data Exchange Framework is sort of it's Adam Kahn's thing, it's a precursor. So having those two-way connectors rebuilt using those new interfaces to the data is I think as people build them. So Adam started by building one for Dynamics, but it's wide open for any other platform, any partner, or anybody who wants to build, right? So I think we'll start to get a little marketplace of, again, Eloqua, Marketo, all those ones we have to deal with, and that'll be really nice.
Did they provide any indication whether their, you know, the roadmap has the solution tied to Mongo? I mean, Mongo's pretty generic in terms of a persistence store.
Yeah.
And I wonder if there's a plan to sort of abstract that out.
Yeah, they're going to open that up. So they were pretty tight-lipped on which ones they'd expand to, but there's going to be in the future a choice of different databases that can serve as the collection. Yeah. Cool. Any other questions? Thank you.
Great.
Was anyone else in the room presenting? I think it was.
I mean, Ken and I will just say a few things.
Well, no, let me check this. So Nick, how do I?
Hey, Amanda.
Is he?
I can make him
past presenter?
Oh, yeah, you got it. She's got it right there.
Yeah. You just unmute the laptop.
Bear with me.
You are now unmuted.
Yeah. After he's done, I can just switch the speakers to the TV, and then we can hear him.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Is something in chat right now?
I can send him a message.
Yeah. I think you'd have to cancel and then try this chat.
So, meeting's over.
He's still there.
Beautiful.
Not right now. Can't hear you right at this moment.
Let me try to pass that to him again.
We actually joined the audio one here, yes? Just to validate.
Sorry?
You did join the audio one here, right?
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
It's a surgery. What is that? But not hand off here. can hear anything on the audio?
I can hear you guys fine.
Okay, good. That is on.
So Nikki.
There you go.
Yes, I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Nick, do you wanna say something? Just the
Okay,
audio?
awesome.
There you go. You can hang up now.
In order to do a presentation, make sure you download an app that isn't really working right now. So,
you should get a notification to download Join Me and be a presenter.
yeah, it's forcing me to download an app that's throwing a JavaScript there. No, I'll just speak to my topic.
Okay.
And there's a really crazy echo, so it's nearly 1 o'clock in the morning here, so I'll try my best.
There's an echo. I can mute the mic here, if that helps.
Yeah. Floor is yours.
Okay, awesome. So I was going to basically talk about a very sorry, that echo's still there. I'm clearing my
Hold on. Okay. Try now.
If you can still hear me, then it's better on my end. Okay, awesome, cool. So I was going to talk really about one particular topic, and it kind of follows on from what Amanda was just talking about, and that is the data exchange framework that has been recently introduced into Sitecore. I was actually working with the framework a little bit before Symposium, but while I was there, I kind of had a chance to attend Adam Con's presentation on the new framework and have a sort of chat with him about some of the problems I was trying to solve with it. So essentially, the data exchange framework is a generic framework. So typically, when we talk about Sitecore connectors for doing data synchronization between Sitecore, XDB, and some other third-party system, we've typically got sort of bespoke connectors. But this is really a generic framework for synchronizing data between Sitecore and anything. The first connector that is available is the Dynamics Crm Connect 1.1. So if any of you have worked with the media framework, for example, which was also led by Adam Con, it's a very similar kind of approach in the sense that there was a generic media framework, and on top of that, we were given an Uyala connector, and I did some work to build a Vimeo connector on top of that. So it does require Sitecore 8.1 Update 1 as a minimum, and from an installation point of view, it's quite straightforward. There are free packages to install, and the reason for that, again, is because you're kind of building up on these layers of abstraction that they've now provided. It does, just as a point, also require .NET Framework 4.5.2, so if your solution is running anything less than that, you will need to install that. Synchronization itself is essentially a set of pipelines that are very similar to the standard Sitecore pipelines, except we now have a concept of pipeline batches. They've also reworked the way that the pipelines work in DXF so that you can also run them outside of the Sitecore process. So if you want to write some code that uses the underlying data exchange framework and have it sitting on a server somewhere else that doesn't need any access to the Sitecore context, you can do that. And I think that will become more interesting when we get the access to XConnect. So obviously we can have a server somewhere reading data from a third-party system, sending it over to the XConnect APIs, and pushing data into XDB. I did prepare a demo for this, but since I can't share that, I'll just try and speak to it. But essentially, the process of installing or configuring DXF is you have to create what's called a tenant in the Sitecore content tree. And underneath that tenant, you will configure settings like, for example, the connection string for Dynamics, if Dynamics is what you are integrating with. You then configure a set of pipelines that you want to run as a synchronization process. And each pipeline consists of a series of steps. And each step obviously has a specific task to carry out and has access to the overall pipeline context, just like you would expect with a regular Sitecore pipeline. Where things get interesting is you can then assign essentially what's called a value mapping set to any pipeline, and that's where you essentially configure value accessors for properties on your source objects and map them to properties on your target objects. So it could be that I'm going to take the full name field from the contact in Dynamics, and I'm going to map it to the, sorry, not the full name, the first name field in Dynamics, and map it over to the first name field on the personal facet on the XDB contact, which you get out of the box with Sitecore. The Dynamics connector itself introduces an additional custom facet called Dynamics CRM, and inside of that custom facet, you can then also write properties onto your XDB contacts for things like a collection of GUIDs for the marketing lists that person is subscribed to in Dynamics. So then all of that, as part of the synchronization process, all of that data is getting pushed into XDB. You can also specify transformers, so kind of doing ETL-like activities. So if you want to take that information out of your source system, apply some transformations to it before you put it in XDB, then you can basically assign a transformer to a particular pipeline step or a particular value accessor, and just write the necessary code to do that transformation. Now, all of this, for the most part, is designed to be run with very little intervention from a developer. So you are literally configuring items in the Sitecore content tree that define. So typically with pipelines, I guess if I back up, developers in the room will be used to kind of modifying pipelines in a configuration file somewhere. In DXF, they're actually items in the content tree. So you don't need to create any configuration files to define your pipeline steps. It's just like editing content and configuring your synchronization process in Sitecore. Then only at the point at where you need to do something custom do you actually need to open Visual Studio and write some code. Where things get pretty cool is it really, up until now, the process of writing custom data into XDB has been not necessarily the easiest of tasks to do, but DXF makes it really simple and straightforward. Again, this would have been better if it was more visual, but you can essentially extend an interface that the Dynamics connector gives you, and then define what your additional properties on that interface should be. So, for example, if you were a car dealership, and in Dynamics you had added custom fields for the vehicle type that somebody is interested in, then you would create those custom fields within Dynamics the way you would normally do, and then all we need to do on the Sitecore side is extend that interface, override the default class that Dynamics uses, and just basically make sure that you've added the additional properties in the Sitecore content tree to pick up those custom properties on those custom facets on your contacts. And then obviously it's bidirectional. So if you've got someone coming into the website and filling out a form, you can write that vehicle type preference onto that contact and then have it sync the other way back up into Dynamics. Again, where I think this is going to get quite cool is when Xconnect comes in. It's definitely going to make it simpler to because we've now got that kind of service-based access to XDB. But I think right now it's a really interesting addition to the Sitecore module ecosystem. But yeah, it's unfortunate that I cannot share the demo I prepared, but never mind. Yeah, I mean, if anyone wants to, if anyone has more interest in the data exchange framework, I'd be happy to set up a quick demo at another time. So yeah, just feel free to reach out to me. I'm assuming you can still hear me. Otherwise, I've been talking to myself.
Thank you, Alan. Alan. Thank you, Nick. All right. I don't know why I called you Alan.
That's okay.
All right. Any questions for Nick?
Nick, it's Dennis. So I've heard some folks frame Connect, or the data exchange framework in the context of, yes, your source can be Sitecore, but it doesn't necessarily, or your destination or source can be Sitecore, but it doesn't necessarily have to be Sitecore at all. Using it as a framework for just doing ETL in general. So I'm interested in hearing your comments on the viability of doing something like that. Any problems with that? And secondly, since you've had some experience with it, one of the things with ETL, of course, is some of this performance type of issues. And what's your sense of how it would perform on scale?
Yeah, it's slightly too early to tell. The one thing I will say about DXF in its current form is the learning curve is high. There are a lot of places that you need to go to configure the whole synchronization process. I haven't yet had a chance to experiment with running that outside of Sitecore to push data to something that isn't Sitecore at all. So I couldn't really comment yet on how easy that would be to do or how scalable it is. I know one of the things that they're working on for future revisions of the current framework is providing a more wizard-based interface on top of it, so that you're not having to necessarily manage all of the items in the content tree that you need to configure and have all set correctly. It'll kind of take you through a more of a, I guess like some of the stuff we saw in the symposium, the finishing keynote, where they were kind of envisaging this flow of somebody being able to come in and very visually configure and set up engagement plans and could kind of drag and drop things onto the creator, if you like, and have it all kind of the complication of the wiring up kind of hidden away. So I think that's where they're going with it in the future. But it's definitely a good question. I'd love to throw a lot more volume at it than I've currently had a chance to, but yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Nick? No? I know that might be very technical for some of you, but very useful for others.
Yeah,
this is probably the worst demo without. By the way, it's very difficult to explain, but never mind.
I'll just say that Nick, you couldn't see, but when you mentioned the Dynamics connector and being able to do a lot of things in the Sitecore content tree without the actually programming, I saw David raise his eyebrows, because I mean we've been doing a lot of Dynamics integration, and it is just writing a whole lot of hand-coded Dynamics kind of just calling entities and so forth and field names, and it is so labor intensive. So hearing that it's a viable option to take some of that labor off, I mean, that made him smile right away. Because that could have saved, I don't know, weeks of development in some recent projects we did. So hopefully it's ready for prime time really soon.
What you'll find yourself doing in DXF is basically plumbing, for the most part. Now, there are some scenarios, for example, where, I don't know, you might have Dynamics configured in a certain way that you've got, I don't know, separate custom fields, but when you want to bring it to XDB, you just want to kind of turn that into a collection of GUIDs or something and put it in a single field. But then you can transform that's fine. But yeah, there are in my opinion, currently, there are a few too many steps for my liking. For example, I'll give you an example of that. It's not just as straightforward as to say, well, let's say you want to take that information from Dynamics and write segmentation rules in Sitecore so that you could create, for example, a list to be used with something like EXM that is segmented based on particular values that may be present on that context record in Dynamics. It's not sufficient just to take the data out of Dynamics and just put it into XDB. You still have to put in the custom aggregators so that at the point of aggregation, it gets put into the Sitecore Analytics Index. And it's only at the point where it's available in there will you be able to do those types of things. So it's not necessarily that it's complicated. It's just there are a lot of steps and pieces to remember to have to do. So I kind of welcome some of Adam's comments that where they're going is trying to make it much more wizard-based.
Okay, all right, very well. Thank you so much, Nick. Okay, Ken, say a couple of words.
Sure, actually, it's a good segue to Amanda covered it as well as Pete covered it. There are a lot of talk today about Xconnect and XDB, and that's basically the future of Sitecore. I just want to give a word of encouragement here that I should tell you a story as well, kind of introduce all of this. When we arrived in New Orleans and we arrived at the Hotel Hyatt, where's Sitecore was being held, we had a little issue with our hotel. Eventually they worked it out and got to our rooms, took a quick nap, and then after I visited the deal because we're going to go out to some food, and we heard a knock on the door. And opened the door, and it's actually someone from the hotel. We actually had 2 handwritten letters to each of us, explaining and apologizing for the little mix-up at the front desk, with a little goodie bag, chocolates, and and then I began to reflect on that, and I thought, okay, that's interesting. They understand personalization, right? They understand customer experience management. And then I began to reflect again on our first visit when we walked in and met the people at the front desk. They had all these pins, and they were Sitecore pins. And everything in the hotel was Sitecore. I don't know if you saw that, but like every banner, every little sign, wherever, they transformed the entire hotel to make it Sitecore personalization. And I thought, this is exactly what Sitecore is aiming for to do technology-wise, but here it is, easy to do in person. So as you're developing your solutions, as you're moving into the next steps of Sitecore, always keep that in mind, that it's about the customer. It's about moving or creating things that makes it easier for, number one, the content authors and managers, because that's where Sitecore is going, and also about the customer. Connecting all of those pieces so they have one unique, creative, and good experience with whatever platform you're developing or whatever solution you're developing. So that's what I got out of the conference, just how the whole thing seemed very easy, but it just all meshed into what Sitecore is all about. And then Nick also pointed out just about the Xconnect and how it all just, it's going to be WYSIWYG or wizard-based. And that was the closing note with Lars. They did a whole skit, which was pretty amazing, from, creating the campaign, the landing page, blah, 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 to the person actually walking into the store and actually being presented by the person behind the counter by name, greeted by name, and then having that item that they'd actually purchased online ready for them right then and there. So that's where Sitecore is going, and I want to encourage all of you that always keep that in mind, that it's all about the customer, and it's about making the lives of the customer and those that are using the software more convenient and easy. All right.
Thank you, Ken. Actually, all my notes are almost covered. I just have one thing left to say about Sitecore Commerce. Sitecore is investing tremendous amount of money on Sitecore Commerce. I'm sure you guys know. And they're moving now all the software, the Sitecore Commerce server, into web-based. Now you need to install a client, and it connects to a server and whatever. but now they're moving all that to a web-based commerce. They're calling it Sitecore Commerce, and I think they're ahead of schedule. In January, they're going to launch with Sitecore 8.3, that first version of Sitecore Commerce, and we actually working with Sitecore closely on the training, the developers training for the Sitecore Commerce. And speaking of that, Tech Guilds as well recently launched a training, developers training with a lot of hands-on and workshops, and also content authors and marketing. So also in the commerce space, we're working with Sitecore on that. And also one other thing I want to mention, that I noticed that Sitecore touched and mentioned virtual reality and augmented reality and talk about Pokemon Go and all this stuff. So that tells you they have this in mind and looking ahead to that future technologies as well. So very interesting. I want to mention as well, we're doing some R&D. I never mentioned much about it, but you have the HoloLens, and we're doing some R&D on that, and on VR devices as well. So feel free to try them out if you want after the event. That's it.
Did you hear 8th January? Is that what you said?
Early 2017.
Yeah.
Is that recent? Is that after symposium?
In the symposium. Yeah.
And some of us were skeptical of that.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, they said they're ahead of schedule. Yeah, so we actually got invited to a private meeting with Sitecore about the Sitecore Commerce for the training. So yeah, they mentioned that they're ahead of schedule on that. Which is surprising.
It's actually January. That'll be awesome.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Okay. Very well.
Yeah, during when I stepped out just before we wrapped up, there was a thing about pricing. I did ran over to my computer and I found an email. So if you're a Sitecore partner, I can't send to anybody who's not a partner, but it could give you what they gave on the kind of baseline thing, so that you can kind of have ballpark, but it doesn't apply. I mean, you get your rep to quote it, but if you would drop your email to me, I can send you what I got on just the baseline pricing. And you're right, the consumption thing is basically, it doesn't, the amount is like up to 100,000 or whatever visits or something like that, but that doesn't really, it's not really like per visit pricing.
Are they actually counting, or?
I don't believe so. I think they're just kind of, I think basically they want to know that if it's overloading their servers, they're going to charge you a little bit more because, like, that's pretty much how they're doing their thing.
Just tell them the size of the company and how much they can charge.
Yeah. Flavors, right?
Yeah, P1 and 2 and
yeah, exactly. So depending on your level of usage, you can get this.
So I'll send that to you.
You pay a little bit
else
for anything over. Also coming over with the service as well. Like I was always interested whether we could do that as an infusion as part of our managed services, like host Sitecore for people and have multi-tenant, like multiple clients on a single Sitecore instance. That well, said explicitly in the terms of service, you can't do that. But if you talk to the right people,
Just there you go. Cool. So, all right. I next, you have anything to announce for what?
Yeah. So we try to do these about once a quarter, and we rotate where we host it. So we'll probably be announcing the next one somewhere between February and April. But we'll announce it before that. It will occur somewhere in that range, and we'll keep you posted on speakers and topics. But certainly, there's a committee of us who runs this user group. So if you have topics you want to hear about, or if you even want to volunteer to be a speaker, please email us, and we'll fit you in. A very open culture for that stuff.
Yeah. So I think that is it. Yes, we want to thank everybody for coming. Coveo for making the trip out. Be talking to them soon. Thank you, all of you. We're going to stay build about for about half an hour more. Thanks so much. See you guys. Yes, it's awesome. It's going to be.
We're ready for the DJ.
That's right, boy.
Was it recording it?
Make it done just
Try this out.
you want to start the chairs there?